Back room of Ringers. The smoke-filled back room of Ringers was dimly lit, the stench of old beer and damp wood hanging in the air. Macca, Louis and Harry sat around a scarred wooden table, their drinks untouched as they discussed the latest trouble.
So who the fuck do we reckon was behind the Black Swan?
Macca asked, running a hand over his unshaven face. Louis sighed.
No idea who's pulling the strings, but the new management. They're serious players.
Harry leaned in.
And these Slade brothers? Anyone know anything about them?
Silence. Louis shook his head.
Only that they ain't from round here. From the highway, I think.
Macca tapped the table with his fingers.
That's what bothers me. Must be someone behind them. That don't happen unless someone's letting it.
He glanced at Louis.
You think Joseph and his mob are behind this?
Louis shrugged.
Wouldn't put it past them. But why? What's the end game?
Macca pondered for a moment, then leaned back in his chair.
Dunno, but something ain't right.
Louis took a sip from his glass, then lowered his voice.
A girl from the lodgings was killed.
Macca's jaw tightened.
Yeah, I spoke to Johnny Upright about it.
Harry raised an eyebrow.
And?
Macca exhaled.
No one saw anything. Not the coppers, not the punters, but whatever was done to her.
He paused, shaking his head.
She was penetrated by a blunt instrument. It caused peritonitis.
Harry frowned.
The fuck is that?
Macca glanced at him.
Attack on her lower regions, ripping the part between her bits. It caused an infection, a bad one. It killed her.
A heavy silence settled over the table. Harry muttered,
Jesus.
Macca sat forward.
This ain't just some drunk giving a girl a kicking. This was something else.
Harry's expression darkened.
Someone sent a message.
Though didn't she say she was in a scheme with Freddy Fingers to get some money?
Louis shrugged.
Doesn't mean it's connected to her getting done over, though.
Not a simple mugging, though, was it?
The room fell quiet again, the weight of it. Harry leaned forward, eyes sharp.
So what are we gonna do?
Macca sighed, rubbing a hand over his face.
Nothing, not right now. We wait, see what happens.
Louis grunted, taking a drink.
There was a big kickoff at the Old Nickel the other night.
Macca nodded.
Yeah, I know.
Harry tilted his head.
What started it?
Macca shrugged, lighting a smoke.
Dunno, boredom, relief from the misery. You know what it's like, any excuse for a ruck to break up the monotony.
Harry frowned.
Not related then?
Macca exhaled slowly.
Dunno, who can tell?
He flicked ash onto the floor.
Maybe that's the point.
Harry sat back, mulling it over.
So what are you gonna do, Macca?
Macca grinned, lifting his glass.
Get pissed.
They laughed, the tension easing for a moment. Harry shook his head.
I don't mean right now.
Macca grinned.
Wait, chances are they wouldn't dare come down this way anyway.
Louis nodded.
Yeah, this shit probably won't affect us.
Macca took a long drink.
No, but we'll keep an eye on it anyway.
The Black Swan. The morning crowd was thinner, just the usual old dockers and early drinkers. Lucy wiped down the bar, her mind elsewhere, as Gabe poured a whiskey for a shaky-handed regular. Then Tommy walked in, his face like thunder. He didn't even glance at Lucy, just jerked his head toward the back. Gabe sighed, setting down the bottle.
Watch the bar a minute, Luce.
Lucy nodded, but her eyes followed Tommy. Something was brewing. Out back? The real business? Tommy leaned against the damp brickwork, his voice low but firm.
We've been told to act.
Gabe raised an eyebrow.
Yeah, doing what?
Tommy glanced around before speaking.
Find out who the raiders were. Word is the local brass and dolly mops know more than they let on. We lean on them.
Gabe nodded.
All right, but we'll need help.
Tommy grinned coldly.
Already sorted.
The room was cold, despite last night's embers still glowing faintly in the fire grate. Caleb sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands, rubbing at the dull throb behind his eyes. His stomach churned, a mix of last night's beer and something deeper, something rotten and heavy. The same weight he'd felt every morning since he got out. At least he was earning enough for a small room of his own now. But for how long? It was easier at night. The beer softened everything, dulled the bleak, endless stretch of days ahead. The pubs, the half-lit streets, the girls smiling over their shoulders, the quick laughs, The heat of two close bodies, it all made him forget for a while. That one girl, the one with the fish porter boyfriend. He could still see the way she looked at him, the way she leaned in when she laughed. The boyfriend had noticed too, face tight with jealousy. What was her name? Caleb frowned, staring at the cracked floorboards. He wasn't sure he'd even asked. But he remembered the way she touched his arm, the way her eyes lingered, and the way she'd mentioned Dorset Street next to a chandler's shop. For a moment, just for a short while, he'd felt alive again. The kitchen stank of boiled cabbage, stale beer, and unwashed bodies. A few people sat hunched over their meager meals, scooping at watery gruel, their faces hollow and lifeless. Tommy stepped inside, his boots heavy on the scuffed wooden floor. Eyes shifted away. No one in this place wanted to draw attention from a man like him. He spotted her instantly, Pearly Pole, sitting hunched at the end of a rickety table, picking at a crust of bread. She saw him too, and she moved fast, but not fast enough. Tommy's hand clamped around her thin wrist, stopping her mid-step.
Hello, Pearly,
He said, his tone almost mocking. She swallowed hard and nodded.
All right, Tommy.
You busy?
He asked, feigning politeness.
I was just going to go to work.
Work?
She nodded quickly.
Yeah, you know, matchboxes.
Tommy smirked.
What, down Bryanton May?
No,
She said, shaking her head.
at a friend's.
A friend's?
Tommy tilted his head, his grip still firm on her wrist.
Really? Anyone we know?
Pearly shrugged, eyes flickering toward the door.
What's the word, Pearly?
Tommy's voice dropped lower. There was no charm in it now.
I ain't heard nothing.
Tommy exhaled sharply, rolling his eyes. He'd heard this bullshit before. A disheveled man at a nearby table, thin, face lined with dirt, a rock-hard crust of bread clutched in his fingers, looked up, staring at Tommy. Tommy turned his head, catching him mid-gaze.
Got a problem, mate?
The man looked away fast, hunching over his meal like he could disappear into it. Tommy gave a look and turned to Pearly Pole.
Fancy a drink, Pearly?
She laughed nervously.
Bit early.
That ain't never stopped you before.
She let a very nervous smile spit from her lips.
If you like.
Tommy nodded.
Yeah, I do like.
Tommy had got the information he wanted. Mickey Kidney was the man in the know. His woman, Long Liz, would know where to find him. Find her, and you'd find him.
Mary Jane and Barney had successfully moved to a small room in Miller's Court, right next to Macca's Chandler's. Mary Jane loved the music hall. Barney could take it or leave it. Though after a few pints he found it tolerable enough. She sang along to every chorus, laughed loudly at the jokes, and tapped out little jigs to the music. Barney always thought she seemed a different woman there, brighter, more alive than the morose, moody creature he sometimes came home to after a day at the fish market. The halls gave her an escape, and she embraced it with both hands. It was a blessing the stalls were cheap. Everyone could afford a taste of the spectacle. Mary Jane would often nudge Barney and make sly comments about the ladies and gentlemen up in the plush seats. She claimed that was her once, though Barney could never tell if she was reminiscing, boasting, or simply being provocative. She certainly had a taste for the high life. Not that Barney minded too much. While his wages were steady, he knew the music hall nights left her in an especially exuberant mood, which made for a warm welcome at home. Mary Jane understood all too well how to keep him entertained in bed, and she could wind him round her little finger without him even noticing. Barney lay there with a warm, satisfied glow, Mary Jane tucked in close beside him on their narrow bed. Her head rested on his chest, his arm draped loosely around her.
What is it you enjoy so much about the music hall?
He asked, his voice drowsy. Mary Jane gave a small, knowing smile.
Like my mum always told me, life's a heap of shit, unfair and miserable, so you grab hold of any little pleasure you can squeeze out of it, while you still can.
Barney nodded thoughtfully.
She's got a point, I suppose. And you certainly try.
Mary Jane didn't answer straight away. She turned her head, looking past the grime-streaked window. Beyond it, there was nothing but the blackness of night, and in that darkness her thoughts wandered to places she didn't care to share.
Tommy stepped out into the street, adjusting his coat against the damp night air. Flower and Dean Street was a maze of lodging houses, some barely more than wooden shacks stacked against each other, filled with the desperate and the damned. Long Liz was said to be among them, and she was the key to Kidney, a hard bastard, one of those men you only crossed if you had to. Tommy had to. He moved quickly, scanning doorways and alleys, stepping over the odd drunken souls sprawled in the muck. Inside, Cooney's lodging house, Whitechapel, 1888. Tommy pushed through the door of Cooney's lodging house, his sharp eyes scanning the dimly lit room. The stench of damp straw, sweat, and old stew hung in the air. Near the front, a matronly woman sat, arms folded across her chest, watching him like she had seen his type 1,000 times before.
Is Long Liz in?
Tommy asked. The woman gave him a suspicious once-over before shaking her head.
No idea. Get a lot of women in here. Never give their real names.
Tommy nodded in acknowledgement. He wasn't in the mood for games.
Can I look?
She hesitated, then shrugged.
If you want. No trouble, though.
Tommy gave a half smile, the kind that said, like you'd be able to stop me. Then he stepped inside. The kitchen dining area was crowded with women of all ages and states of disrepair. Some were hunched over bowls of watery broth, others nursed tin cups of weak tea, and a few just stared blankly into space, lost in their own misery. Tommy leaned over to a woman sipping tea, his voice low.
You know Long Liz?
She wiped her mouth and barely looked at him.
No.
Tommy reached into his pocket, slipping a shilling into her lap. Her fingers closed around it, and her eyes widened as she felt the weight of the coin.
Try again,
Tommy murmured. The woman sighed and tipped her chin toward a thin, worn-looking woman across the table. At once, the other woman's head snapped up, her expression twisting in outrage.
You bitch!
The woman with the shilling only smirked.
Fuck off, Liz. I'd sell my own mum for a shilling.
She shoved her rickety chair back, stood up and muttered,
I'm off down the pub.
She left in a hurry, abandoning her half-drunk tea. Tommy settled into her empty seat, his eyes now locked onto Long Liz. Liz exhaled slowly, sizing him up.
You got a shilling for me?
Maybe.
Tommy said, resting an elbow on the table.
Depends on what you tell me.
And what do you want to know?
Kidney?
Liz rolled her eyes.
Never heard of him.
Tommy tilted his head, unimpressed.
Really?
Liz hesitated. She could tell he wasn't someone to mess with.
He's your bloke, ain't he?
Liz shrugged, looking anywhere but at him.
Off and on.
Then you know where I might find him.
Liz shifted uncomfortably.
He could be anywhere.
You must have some idea.
Liz sighed, running a hand through her tangled hair.
If he knew I talked, he'd kill me.
Relax, I just need to know where he drinks.
All over. Can't say where at any one time.
Tommy's patience thinned.
All right, let's make this simple. If you needed to find him right now, if you were in trouble and needed his help, where would you go?
Liz shook her head, exasperated.
I told you he could be anywhere. He gets up to all sorts.
Tommy leaned in slightly, his tone casual but pointed.
Come on, Liz. You're with him for a reason. A woman like you doesn't get with a bloke like Kidney for love, does she?
Liz stiffened.
What's that supposed to mean?
Means you know how this works. You stick close to a fella like that because as long as people know you're his woman, no one gives you any shit. Ain't that right?
She didn't answer, but her expression said enough. Tommy shrugged, giving her a knowing smirk.
Nothing to be ashamed of. My missus is the same.
Liz frowned.
Your wife?
Tommy chuckled, the sound dry.
Hates me. She just thinks I don't know it.
Liz studied him for a moment, then hesitated.
Do you hate her?
Tommy just smiled.
Answer my question first.
Liz let out a slow breath.
You just want to talk to him?
That's all.
She stood up abruptly. Tommy arched a brow.
Where you going?
Liz glanced toward the door.
You want to find Mickey, don't you?
Yeah. She nodded.
Then come on.
Without another word, she headed for the exit. Tommy followed. Tommy followed Liz through the grime-ridden back streets and shadowed alleys, the reek of damp brick and rotting waste thick in the air. The night was settling in, the streets quieter now, but still alive, with the occasional drunken holler or shuffling figure slipping into the darkness.
Why aren't you two together at the moment?
Tommy asked, keeping pace beside her. Liz shrugged, eyes fixed ahead.
We was lodging down Dorset Street. Bastard used to lock me in the room and go down the pub. Sometimes wouldn't come back till next day.
Tommy exhaled sharply, shaking his head.
So, you had enough then?
No.
Liz snorted, glancing at him.
Got out one day. He caught me, knocked me about, then told me to fuck off.
Tommy let out a short, humorless laugh.
Good riddance then?
Liz shrugged again, a small, bitter smile tugging at her lips.
Like you said, you know how it is.
Tommy followed Long Liz through the narrow, filth-ridden streets of Whitechapel, the damp air thick with the stench of piss, rotting food and coal smoke. The city was waking up in its own miserable way, costermongers setting up barrows, ragged women haggling over bruised fruit, and the occasional drunken lout stumbling out of a gin house, still clinging to the night before. Liz walked fast, her shawl wrapped tight, heels clicking against the cobblestones. Tommy kept close, watching her posture. She was nervous.
Relax, Liz, you're in no danger.
She scoffed.
Yeah? That's easy for you to say. What about when Mickey finds out I led you to him?
Tommy smirked.
He won't, unless you tell him.
Liz didn't answer, just kept walking, turning down Gun Street, then cutting through a dingy alley where the smell of mildew and old beer was overwhelming. She finally stopped outside a back entrance to a pub, the kind of place that didn't have a name, just a reputation. Men of a certain breed drank here.
He's in there.
She nodded toward the door.
Probably getting pissed or planning something stupid.
Tommy studied the entrance. No windows, just a heavy wooden door reinforced with iron bands. The kind of place where you didn't enter unless you were expected.
All right,
he said, reaching into his pocket and flipping her the promised shilling.
Appreciate it.
She caught it but didn't move.
You're serious about this, aren't you?
Deadly.
Liz hesitated, then sighed.
Then be careful. Mickey Kidney ain't just some hard nut. He's a fucking savage.
Tommy's smile didn't quite reach his eyes.
I've met a few in my time.
Tommy asked.
What's he look like? I mean, how will I know it's him?
Liz smirked.
Same way you found me. Just ask.
Tommy gave a slow nod, taking that in.
He got associates?
Liz shot him a look.
What do you think?
His eyes narrowed slightly.
You setting me up?
She met his gaze head on. She spoke low.
Do I look that stupid?
Tommy studied her for a beat.
Do I?
Stay here.
Liz turned, pushed open the heavy wooden door, and stepped inside the beer house. Tommy leaned against the wall, arms folded, waiting. He wasn't sure he trusted her, but what the hell? He'd taken bigger risks. Seconds later, Liz reappeared.
Did he see you?
Tommy asked. She shook her head.
Don't think so.
She nodded toward the door.
As you go in, look to your right. Back wall, in the corner. Guy with a black peaked cap.
Tommy gave a small nod, committing that to memory. Without another word, Liz turned on her heel and vanished into the darkness of the alley, swallowed up by the grime-ridden metropolis. Tommy pushed the heavy door open and stepped inside the beer house. It was an unlicensed dive, the kind of place where men with nothing to lose came to drink, gamble, and plot their next move, legal or otherwise. The air was thick with pipe smoke, stale beer, and bad intentions. His eyes scanned the dimly lit room and quickly locked onto the man in the corner. a black peaked cap pulled low, flanked by two feral-looking associates. The way they hunched over their drinks, eyes darting to newcomers, told Tommy everything he needed to know. He moved towards them, already running through the different ways this could go south. His instincts told him he was being watched, weighed up.
You Mickey?
Tommy asked flatly. The man in the cap barely glanced up.
What the fuck's that gotta do with you?
Can I have a word?
Mickey smirked, half drunk, thinking himself clever.
You can have two, mate.
He took a slow sip from his tankard, looking smug. Tommy nodded a tired and bored acknowledgement.
Really? And they are fuck and off, are they?
One of Mickey's companions nudged him sharply with an elbow. Tommy caught the look in the man's eyes. Recognition. That alone was enough to shift the mood. Mickey clocked it too, his smirk faltering just slightly. He sized Tommy up again, then shrugged and gestured for his mate to move up.
Yeah, all right. Got fuck all better to do.
Tommy nodded, a wry smile playing at the corner of his mouth. He slid onto the bench beside Mickey, flipping a couple of coins towards his remaining companion.
Get a couple of beers in, mate.
The feral-looking man hesitated for half a second, then pocketed the money and made for the bar. Mickey settled back, watching Tommy now with something closer to interest. Tommy let the silence hang for a moment before speaking.
You got much on?
Mickey gave a slow shrug.
How do you mean?
Work, business, ways of earning.
Another shrug.
Not much. Bit of dock work occasionally.
Tommy snorted derisively.
Pretty grim.
Mickey's jaw tensed at the insult, but he let it slide. He was tipsy, but not stupid. Tommy leaned in slightly, lowering his voice just enough to make Mickey focus.
Might have some work for you. A man of your talents.
Kidney was no fool. He kept his skepticism close, his wariness hidden beneath a casual nod, waiting to hear the full story before making any moves. Tommy leaned in slightly, keeping his tone relaxed but firm.
Got a temporary job running a boozer. Me, my brother, and the missus. You know how it is.
Kidney nodded along, saying nothing.
Thing is,
Tommy continued,
it got turned over the other week, so we're looking for a bit of muscle, to make sure it don't happen again. Heard you were a man worth asking.
Kidney's expression didn't change.
Which pub?
The Black Swan. You hear about it getting done over?
A slight shrug. Kidney's instincts told him to stay quiet. Tommy studied him, sensing the guarded response. Too many ears in the pub, too many eyes watching from the bar. He decided to push a little harder.
Well, come down in the next couple of days. Me or my brother Gabe will set you up, tell you the full details.
Kidney gave a slow nod, but Tommy could tell he wasn't convinced. The charm wasn't working, and the setting wasn't helping. Tommy tried another angle.
It'll be worth your while.
That got a flicker of interest, but Kidney still held his cards close. He had no issue cracking skulls for money. He'd done it before, but he also wasn't about to walk into something blind. He leaned in slightly, testing the waters.
Really?
Tommy met his stare without hesitation.
Really?
Kidney smirked, sensing an opportunity to put Tommy on the spot.
Nah, see, I reckon someone told you I might know who did the blag. So you come sniffing around.
Tommy chuckled.
So, why offer you a job then? If I just wanted information, don't you think I'd already have it?
Their eyes locked, and for a split second, the air between them grew thick with the kind of tension that only men like them could understand. An unspoken challenge, a warning, a test of wills. The moment teetered on the edge of violence, then Tommy smiled, breaking the tension just enough.
Nice little earner.
Kidney exhaled through his nose, the hostility easing just a fraction. He gave a slow nod.
All right, I'll pop down.
Tommy grinned.
Nice one.
They shook hands, each man testing the other's grip, both exerting just enough pressure to send a message. As Tommy got up to leave, Kidney spoke again, his voice casual but pointed.
If you do want to know who did the blag, ask Turner.
So?
Tommy smiled, shrugging dismissively.
Not from around here, so I got no idea who Turner is, even if I was looking.
Kidney smirked slightly. He wasn't stupid.
Ask Martha. She drinks in the 10 Bells. She'll know where to find him.
Tommy gave a wry smile, nodding and letting out a snort of ironic laughter.
Right, same old story. No one knows, but ask someone who might.
Tommy shrugged.
Means fuck all to me, really. Remember, drop into the Black Lion. Work's waiting for you.
Kidney didn't reply, just watched as Tommy turned and walked out, disappearing into the noise and grime of Whitechapel. Mary Jane, bleary-eyed, head aching, slowly opened her heavy eyes. The bright light from the summer sun illuminated the courtyard of Miller's Court. Puffing out her cheeks, she swung her legs over the bed and accidentally kicked the metal bath with her heel.
"Aw, shit,"
she said, rubbing her foot. She sat for a moment and contemplated having a bath, but concluded she couldn't be asked. Getting up, she sidled over to the nightstand, poured water into the bowl, and holding her hair, dipped her head into the water. The shock of cold water on her face did the trick of freshening her up, but did nothing for her bad head. She mused. Maybe she needed a hair of the dog. She wondered what time it was. She hadn't heard the church clock chime or Joe leave for work, but noticed the 2 shillings he had left for her on the table. Thank God for that, she thought. After their drunken argument last night, she had wondered if he would. But then Joe was a softie when it came to her. She dipped a rag into the water and was just in the process of cleaning her undercarriage when the door burst open. Macca stood there with a big grin.
"Do you ever knock Macca?"
Mary Jane said in a huskier, gin-soaked tone than usual.
Nothing I ain't seen before, girl. What are you up to?
Well, I was in the process of having a wash.
Lover boy at work, I take it.
Her heart sank. Oh no. What's he want me to do now? She mused.
Yeah, I won't be back till after 6. Why?
That's good then. I want you to do me a little favor.
Why am I dreading this, Macca?
Oh, come on, girl. You scratch my back and I scratch yours.
That's what worries me. Whenever anyone says that to me, I get completely screwed over.
Macca held his hands out in an effort at placation.
A little errand. Pay a guy a gambling debt, that's all.
Oh yeah, right?
Mary Jane slipped into her skirt.
Why me?
It's in Knightsbridge and I could hardly send Coxie. This geezer is quite discerning and she's knocking on a bit. And you know the area and type.
Mary Jane nodded ironically. She understood the situation only too well.
Who is he?
There was a note of resignation in her question.
Old army captain.
Wonderful,
she said sarcastically.
Come on, Mary Jane. There's a sov in it for you.
She said nothing, her arms akimbo, a look of resignation on her face.
Just think, girl, fish and chips, couple of gins and enough left over for a trip to the Cambridge, and all for the price of a quick knee trembler.
Mary Jane felt a tinge of apprehension. She always did with a job organised by Macca, but the thought of having to go to Knightsbridge made it more so.
Last time I went there, I got into shit.
Be more careful then.
Mary Jane nodded ironically again, mindful of Macca's lack of empathy, but then she'd grown to accept that from a man. Barney was always like that, never seemed to see anything from her point of view.
When?
She said without any enthusiasm.
About midday today.
There was more than a little apathy in her shrugged reaction.
Cab?
Macca snorted a derisive laugh.
Piss off, walk you lazy bitch.
What if I get mugged?
You won't, Harry's coming with you.
Mary Jane laughed.
You mean you don't bloody trust me with your money?
Macca tried his serious face.
Oh yeah, of course I do.
But he couldn't keep it up and burst into a smile.
I knew you didn't, bastard.
What do I look like to you?
A right bastard.
Macca grinned.
Are you gonna do it or not?
Mary Jane looked at him incredulously and shrugged.
Do I look like the sort of girl to tarnish my chaste reputation?
Macca laughed.
Good girl, Harry'll be round when it's time.
Mary Jane gave him a sarcastic glare and raised her 2 fingers in salute.
And up yours too!
Macca laughed again and left. Mary Jane sighed and again blew out her cheeks in despair. She nearly jumped out of her skin when Macca's head popped round the door again a few moments later with a bundle of clothes in his arms.
Can you have a bath? He's a particular old guy,
he said, smiling.
Got no soap left.
Mary Jane shook her head. Macca produced a bar of soap and slapped it on the table.
Lily of the Valley,
he said as he poked it with his index finger. She nodded, pursing her lips, and indicated the dwindling fire with a flick of her head.
No coal left to heat the water up.
Macca placed the clothes on a chair near the door and held his hands out and shrugged.
Not a problem. Cold bath will do you the world of good. Cure your hangover.
He smiled smugly.
Here I've left some smarter clothes. Make you look a bit more presentable.
Mary Jane looked at the clothes and nodded. Okay.
Do I get to keep them?
No, you don't, you conning bitch.
With that, Macca left to Mary Jane's terse reply.
Tight bastard.
Mary Jane was not used to wearing a bonnet and felt conspicuous as she walked down the bustling, noisy commercial street with Harry. With costermonger handcarts, horse-drawn vehicles of all description, and workers going about their daily grind, Mary Jane and Harry maneuvered their way through the throng. A butcher carrying a skinned pig narrowly missed Mary Jane's head as he swung round without looking. Harry laughed. Mary Jane gave him the V sign and told him,
Piss off. That wasn't funny. That was nearly my head.
Well, watch where you're going, then, you dopey mare.
It's this bloody bonnet. I'm not used to wearing a hat.
It suits you. Makes you look more alluring,
said Harry.
Piss off.
Harry laughed as Mary Jane nearly walked into a coster's cart.
Bloody hat.
Watch where you're bloody going, you dopey cow,
yelled the costermonger.
Up yours.
Mary Jane yelled back, flipping the V sign. Finally negotiating the hustle and bustle of the main thoroughfare, the pair were well on their way.
Bloody hell, Harry. Couldn't we have got a hansom?
You got the 1 in 6 for a cab, have you?
Macca's a greedy fucker.
He's an astute businessman.
Mary Jane let out a coarse, loud laugh.
Yeah, of course I forgot.
The job at the captain's house went without incident, thankfully for Mary Jane. She had used her blocking out technique to reduce the experience to purely professional and perfunctory. Enough to keep the captain satisfied anyway. She had remembered not to start singing too. Something she often forgot when she was with Barney, much to his chagrin. He should just count himself lucky he got anything, Mary Jane had mused on many occasions. Harry was waiting dutifully outside, and he greeted her with a churlish grin and a cheeky,
"Package delivered?"
"Yes,"
she replied curtly.
"Sealed with a kiss?"
Harry said as they started walking.
"Up yours,"
Mary Jane's reply.
"Anytime."
She gave him a glanced, sarcastic smile before stopping abruptly and grabbing her head.
"Shit, I forgot the bonnet."
Harry rolled his eyes.
"You better go back and get it."
Mary Jane shrugged.
"It's only a bonnet."
"Yeah, Macca's wife's. He won't be pleased."
It was Mary Jane's turn to roll her eyes.
"Okay, I better go back and get it. Will you wait?"
Harry shook his head.
"I want to get back. Now I got Macca's money. You're a big girl now and you know the way."
Mary Jane nodded incredulously.
"Oh, thanks a lot. You're a real gent."
"Well, thank you, and you're a real lady."
He reciprocated with more than a little irony and a wry smile.
"Yeah? Bollocks,"
Mary Jane said with a wave of a two-fingered salute. Harry laughed aloud, tipped his hat and strolled off towards Whitechapel. Mary Jane watched him go, shook her head cynically and turned back towards the captain's house. It did not take her long to collect the bonnet from the genial maid who had answered the door and was off again heading for home, taking in the bright orange glow of late afternoon sun that hung over the buzzing metropolis. She didn't bother to wear the bonnet. She hated anything on her head, unless it was a shawl to disguise herself from unwanted attention, from freshly rolled sailors, maison-close henchmen, that sort of thing. And she took the opportunity to take in the fresher air of the more prosperous parts of the city. It was only then that it dawned on her that the French bitch took an afternoon walk round this way, and she quickly donned the bonnet, but not before a man grabbed her arm from behind.
"I recognize that hair from anywhere,"
came the remark. Initially reacting defensively, Mary Jane pulled away, but when she saw the face of the source of shock, a huge smile, complemented by an uncharacteristic girly giggle, lit up her face.
"Fuck, you scared the living shit out of me, Jonto."
"I saw the hair and heard that sexy, husky voice when you were with that bloke, and I thought, no, it can't be. And when you came out of that house and put a bonnet on, I thought she never wears a bonnet."
She couldn't help smiling. She remembered this guy from her time with the French bitch. The majority of the guys she met during that time were real gentlemen. Some were bastards, to be sure, but most were okay. But this guy? He was lovely, though right now he seemed different.
It's good to see you. Are you okay?
He shrugged, a tinge of melancholy in his voice.
Well, you know I'm all right. I've been better. You?
She shrugged and bit her lip.
Same, really.
They exchanged nods and subdued smiles of shared melancholy.
I've missed you.
Mary Jane couldn't help herself. She always gushed when she was in his company. This made Jonto smile. He hadn't found a reason to smile for a while, but he always thought there was something about this girl. A presence. Something he could never put his finger on.
I went to the house when I got back, and the old French woman said you weren't there anymore, but said she was curious about where you were.
I bet she was.
She let out a derisive snort of laughter.
I haven't been there for a while now.
You all right? Did you get in trouble?
She nodded a little unsure.
She's a right conniving, conning, lying, devious bitch.
Mary Jane grabbed his hand.
What about you? You said, when you got back? Where you been?
He looked forlorn at the mere thought of it. Mary Jane wondered if it was a question she shouldn't have asked.
Sudan, Swakin,
he said.
Nearly 2 years.
Really?
Mary Jane said without irony.
What was it like?
Jonto looked blankly at her and then distantly into space.
Hot,
he said finally without elaborating.
I was at Tofrek.
Mary Jane had never heard of it, but guessed something must have happened there, and she didn't quite know how to take this melancholic shadow of the man she knew. Normally full of vigour, humour and charm, he now seemed devoid of all those qualities. Maybe this Tofrek had something to do with it.
Are you thirsty?
He said. Mary Jane smiled and nodded.
Are you buying?
Of course. Still the same drink of choice?
Mary Jane shook her head.
Gin?
Can't say I blame you. I've taken to the spirits myself these days.
Mary Jane put a comforting hand on his arm. Jonto looked into her eyes.
It is really good to see you,
he said. She smiled.
Let's get that drink.
The pair spent the rest of the afternoon in a nearby tavern. It wasn't long before they were both a little tipsy, and one thing led to another. Not that Mary Jane minded. It felt different with Jonto. No need to place her mind elsewhere. It was nice to be in mind as well as body for a change. Though Jonto was definitely not the man she remembered. In which way she still couldn't quite make out. Just a feeling she had. She surmised from his few words, his time in India may have had something to do with it. It hadn't felt right to take the money Jonto offered. After all, he'd paid for the room, but he insisted. This left Mary Jane feeling a little conflicted. Her feelings toward Barney had never been that strong anyway, but now she knew her tolerance levels towards him had significantly dwindled. That meant more moodiness and apathy on her part, and ultimately he would become more annoying and it would lead to more arguments. Jonto seemed more distant, and as Mary Jane put on her skirt and tied her boots, Jonto watched, but not with his usual joking, exuberant energy he always used to possess. The melancholy in his eyes was quite evident.
Are you okay, Jonto?
He smiled.
I'm much better for seeing you.
She smiled.
I've missed that gorgeous smile,
he said, but without the cheeky, naughty boy charm she remembered.
Are you posted here for long?
Mary Jane inquired as she wrapped her maroon shawl over her shoulders.
Ireland, soon, I think.
Shame,
she said with mixed feelings, but then she didn't seem to care overly about much these days, and to be honest, Jonto didn't seem the same. Might be the same for him, she wondered. After all the past 2 years had taken its toll, she wasn't quite the fresh-faced, exuberant girl she was.
Where are you living?
Jonto said, grabbing his shirt. Mary Jane didn't answer. She pretended not to hear. Jonto didn't bother to ask again. Mary Jane felt awkward. He smiled. She thought, bollocks. What did it matter anyway?
Whitechapel.
Jonto nodded in acknowledgement.
Now I know why you didn't want to tell me. Is it as bad as I've heard?
Pretty much.
She let out a little ironic laugh.
How come?
Mary Jane shrugged.
Long story.
He didn't need to know, and she didn't want to think about it. It just depressed her more than she was already at the thought of returning there now. Mary Jane watched as he dressed in silence. He looked forlorn. She knew how he felt. Maybe soldiering to men was like whoring to women. The longer you did it, the more it fucked your head up. As she watched Jonto, she couldn't help feeling sad. There had been something different about him when she knew him before. A lot of men she met in her trade had a harsh attitude towards her that made her feel worthless, almost inhuman. Jonto, whether it was his upbringing or education, had had an empathetic, tolerant nature, not something usually associated with soldiers, especially the soldiers that frequented the pubs and beer houses in the East End, but now that softer side had wilted. He smiled at her as she slipped on his tunic.
Comma, what are the men like in Whitechapel?
She shrugged again.
Animals mostly, only interested in fighting, fucking, drinking and gambling.
Jonto laughed.
Is there anything else?
Mary Jane smiled wryly.
Suppose not.
From experience, she realized she shouldn't have expected any different. But Jonto definitely had a gentleman's breeding, and to be treated like a lady, well, most of the time she mused, was a welcome respite.
Have you an address?
Jonto asked.
I can write and tell you next time I'm in town.
Mary Jane nodded.
Didn't think you'd be bothered now.
The soldier looked at her thoughtfully.
You're still lovely.
He smiled.
And you're still turned out well,
he said, indicating her dress. She didn't have the heart to tell him it wasn't hers. He had always known how to put her at ease. She didn't believe him, though. She wouldn't be that lucky, she thought.
Will you be about tomorrow?
Jonto said, buttoning up his tunic. She nodded.
When?
About the same time.
Yeah.
He smiled again. She approached him, put her hand softly to his face, and placed her forehead against his.
You okay?
Mary Jane asked tenderly. He said nothing, but put her hands in his.
I am when I'm with you.
It must have been the way he said it. It made Mary Jane tingle. It had been a while since they had happened. Even phlegm never made her like that.
Are you okay?
Mary Jane didn't quite know how to answer that. She couldn't remember the last time anyone, let alone a man, had asked her that. People didn't ever seem to care how she felt or how she was. The downside to being a mere commodity, she mused. But just being asked, it had hit at something deep within her that she had forgotten existed. It had made her think about it, and she couldn't answer. She long since put the contemplation of how she was in a compartment deep within her and locked it away. In her situation, in her life, it didn't do to dwell on how she actually felt.
Leah Bridge was a lively spot, full of pubs, coffee houses, music halls, and entertainers of every stripe. That's why Fingers Freddy liked working there. It was just far enough from George Street, and more importantly, from that godless thug, Ivan. Ivan scared the living daylights out of him, and deep down, Freddy felt partly responsible for what had happened to Emma. When he heard the news, he feared the worst, and decided Whitechapel was no longer a safe place to be. Leah Bridge offered a new patch and better coin. It was ideal for his act, conjuring and swallowing, a grimy sideshow of eating nails, glass pebbles, even tacks, all for money, of course. As Freddy went about his routine, wearing his tattered black suit, hat, and boots with his toes peeping through, taking exaggerated bows and ruffling his sleeves, he spotted something from the corner of his eye that chilled him to the bone. Ivan. No, it couldn't be. Freddy's gut twisted. Was Ivan here for him? Was it him who had done for Emma? He didn't want to wait around to find out, but just then, a drunken young girl staggered over and slapped a shilling onto the makeshift table. She was flanked by two men, already laughing. Freddy hesitated, torn. The girl leaned in, giggling.
Come on, mister, show us what you can eat. What do you think?
She slurred to her companions.
George and Charlie are trying to get me drunk.
Freddy forced a smile, still keeping one eye on Ivan, who hadn't moved. I think they might have already succeeded, he said.
Go on then.
The girl said louder now.
My fiancé dumped me. I need a laugh. Eat something.
Freddy gave a little bow. Of course, miss. He picked up a glass pebble, held it high for dramatic effect, and, after a slight pause, swallowed it whole. George and Charlie whooped and clapped. The girl didn't look impressed.
Was that it?
She scoffed, swaying heavily against the men. Freddy gave a tight smile. He could barely hear them now. His eyes were still fixed on Ivan. The man hadn't taken his eyes off him. Ivan moved slowly, deliberately, towards the rickety table where Freddy kept his conjuring bits. His boots crunched the grit on the cobbles. Freddy's stomach twisted. The girl, her words slurring now, leaned in again.
Come on, eat something else.
Charlie and George glared at Freddy, their expressions clear. Don't disappoint her. Freddy knew he couldn't walk away now, not without trouble, and not with Ivan standing just a few feet away, silent and still. Hands shaking slightly, Freddy picked up 2 tacks and a pair of nails, gave them a little flourish with a flick of his fingers, then swallowed them, dry and deliberate. The small crowd clapped, but the tone had shifted. No laughter now, just polite, unsettling applause. Even Ivan joined in, slow and deliberate. The girl squinted at him, suspicious through her drunken haze.
Did you really eat them?
She asked, half accusing. Freddy opened his mouth and turned his head side to side. Of course, madam. Clean as a whistle. She blinked heavily, gave a sloppy clap, and leaned against Charlie, giggling. George and Charlie exchanged a smug nod and gently guided the girl away down the road. Ivan didn't follow. He remained, alone, with Freddy.
Hello, Freddy,
he said, voice flat, almost gentle. He glanced after the girl and nodded.
She's very pretty, isn't she?
Freddy stiffened. I hadn't noticed. Ivan tilted his head, watching Freddy as if studying a new species.
No?
He smiled, a grim, soulless curl of the lips, without warmth, without humor. Then he leaned in, just enough to make Freddy flinch.
There's been a lot of people looking for you, but then I think you know that already.
Ivan grinned.
Mary Jane listened to Barney leave for work, and she waited and made herself ready. Macca had already been in that morning, leaning on the doorframe.
Got another little job for you,
he'd said. She'd shaken her head.
Can't. I'm meeting someone.
Macca raised a brow.
Does Loverboy know?
Mary Jane scowled.
What makes you think I'm meeting a man?
Macca grinned.
You're still wearing Beth's clothes.
She opened her mouth, closed it. Damn him.
Make sure you wash them before you bring them back,
he called, teasing as he left. She fought her way through the chaos of Commercial Street and utilized Shanks's pony. And by the time she reached Knightsbridge, the excitement had cancelled out the exertion expelled. Even the air seemed different here, fresher, polite. She reached the agreed meeting spot on time, but no Jonto. She waited. 10 minutes, 20, 45. Nothing. Fuck it, she thought, folding her arms. What did you expect? Too good to be true. The best things always are. She was on the point of returning back to the grim reality of Whitechapel when someone tapped her shoulder. A little spark of hope jumped in her chest. She turned, smiling, and found a woman. Well-dressed, middle-aged, expensive bonnet. The kind of woman who had never once had to consider survival. She looked Mary Jane up and down as though she was something stuck to her shoe.
Are you Mary Jane?
The woman asked, voice sharp with distaste.
Yeah.
Can you read?
The tone was pure disdain, as if speaking to her at all was an inconvenience.
Yeah.
Mary Jane said again, swallowing the urge to spit. The woman handed her a sealed letter and walked away without another word. Mary Jane glared at her, retreating back, and muttered, "Bitch!" She opened the letter. "Sorry, my darling. It was great seeing you again, but we have been posted to Ireland at short notice, as I explained we were due to be. I am so sorry. I will write to the address you gave. Cannot wait to see you again. Love, Jonto." Mary Jane stared at the note for a long moment. She didn't know what to feel. Nothing, really. She'd known it was fleeting. She was a dirty whore, after all, wasn't she? Men like Jonto, handsome, educated, decent, were always too good for her. Each day it was getting easier to understand the truth. She was gutter shit, and the world would never let her forget it.
Reed stood in his office, one hand wrapped around a lukewarm mug of tea. eyes fixed on the sprawling map of Whitechapel tacked to the wall. The pins and notations were beginning to cluster. A knock at the door.
Come in.
Walt stepped through, hat tucked under his arm.
Walt, what's the word?
Typically enough. Miss Green reckons she couldn't identify her attacker. Says she didn't get a good enough look.
Reed gave a short, incredulous laugh.
You couldn't make it up! He stabbed her in the bloody forehead!
Walt shrugged.
Yeah, I know, Gov, but I think most of them are just scared out of their wits. She lodges at the White House.
Reed turned, eyebrow raised.
Flower and Dean Street?
Yeah.
Figures.
Reed muttered, almost to himself. Walt made for the door, then hesitated, turning back.
Here, Gov. Remember that woman, Emma Smith? Died after being brutalized with a blunt object.
Reed nodded.
Of course I remember. You got a lead?
Walt paused, thoughtful.
Not sure. I was speaking with Inspector Helson from J Division.
Reed turned fully now interested.
Oh yeah? He heard something?
Maybe. Said a body turned up in the marshes near Lee Bridge. Name was Annie Smith, 25. Don't think she's related to Emma, but Helson said it rang a few bells.
Go on.
They found an umbrella nearby, handle missing. Helson reckons it was used on her, in the same way Emma was attacked.
Reed's brow furrowed.
Bit of a coincidence.
Yeah. Body was too far gone for a proper post-mortem, but I figured you should know.
Anyone arrested?
2 geezers who were seen with her that night. They got nothing on them. Both let go.
Reed sipped his tea, eyes drifting back to the map.
Might be worth having a quiet word with them anyway.
Just what I was thinking, Gov.
Walt nodded, tipped his hat, and exited. Reed stepped closer to the map. He found Leah Bridge, tapped it gently with a finger, then drew a line back to Osborne Street. Not impossible, but not likely either. He pursed his lips and frowned. Something didn't sit right.
Billingsgate Fish Market was a hive of activity in the raw hours before dawn. The place steamed with brine and sweat, the air thick with the stink of herring and ice melt. Porters shouldered wicker crans, their boots skidding on the slime-slick cobbles, while gulls screamed overhead like a mob at the gallows. Barney bent beneath the weight of a quarter cran of herring from the iced wagon, his hands numb, his back already aching. The line manager barked orders like a power-crazed sergeant major, voice cutting through the din of barrows and tally bells. By now, Barney knew the routines, the whistle patterns for breaks, the habits of the tally boy, the blind spots when the overseer's back was turned. He'd seen others exploit it, not least his brother Dano, slipping fish to a waiting coster or hiding a fat turbot in a sack bound for a side door. Local chandlers and pub kitchens always paid well for illicit catch. Until recently, Barney had never thought to try it. But Mary Jane liked to live high when she could, and Barney liked to keep her sweet, afraid she'd lose interest if he couldn't. And Macca, with his nose for a bargain, was always eager for fresh fish at half the price. So when the chance presented itself, Barney took it. The first time his nerves jangled like church bells, heart hammering as he tucked the prize under his coat. But the silver clink in his hand later, and Mary Jane's smile when he came home heavier in pocket, quieted his doubts. By the third run, the edge was gone, the fear replaced by a swagger he hadn't felt since his dock days. But complacency has a smell, and the overseers of Billingsgate had long noses. The line manager himself was no stranger to sneaking away a haddock or two, but he knew the signs. He watched Barney closer with each shift. On the 4th attempt, Barney strode through the gates, sack under arm, trying too hard to look casual. A hand shot out, iron tight on his shoulder. "Hold up!" The search was quick, brutal, and final. Out came the gleaming turbot, its dead eyes staring accusingly into the lantern light. The line manager's glare cut him to ribbons. "You fucking idiot!" Barney's heart sank, not just for the loss of the job, though that meant hunger and rent unpaid, but for the fear that chilled him colder than the ice beds in the wagons. What would Mary Jane say?
Barney pushed the door to 13 Miller's Court. He wasn't sure if Mary Jane would be in or not, and he wasn't sure if that would be a blessing or a curse. She was there. Mary Jane had wedged herself into the tin bath dragged out from under the bed, knees drawn up, water grey with soap. Sometimes she washed clothes in it for a few coppers. Sometimes she thought of it as a way out. But it was labour she hated, dull, aching, slow. Not when the street offered easy money, vile though it was. Tonight she used the suds for her teeth, scrubbing with a rag, spitting into the murk. She looked up, catching Barney's forlorn shadow against the door.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
She asked, still perched in the bath, eyes narrowed. Barney swallowed.
I got the sack.
Mary Jane stilled, then rolled her eyes, nodding as if she'd expected nothing less.
Why?
Trying to steal fish. From Macca.
That was clever.
Her quip was dripping sarcasm.
I did it for you.
Barney muttered.
Don't fucking blame me.
She snapped.
I never asked you to do it.
He shifted uneasily.
No, but you weren't exactly unhappy with the extra money.
Mary Jane shrugged, a hard little motion.
Who would be? But we had trouble making rent before. What the fuck are we gonna do now? Can you get other work down there?
Barney shook his head.
I lost my license. I'll find something else.
Mary Jane scoffed.
Not at them wages, you won't.
She leaned back as far as the cramped tub allowed, eyes drifting to some point beyond the cracked plaster, as if weighing invisible scales. Barney's voice cracked.
What are we gonna do?
Her glare cut back to him.
Haven't got a lot of fucking choice, mate. I ain't scratching about in a fucking lodging house or the Spike, pal.
Barney sat on the edge of the bed, destroyed. He knew what she meant, knew what road she'd walk again, and it gutted him.
I'll find work,
he whispered. Mary Jane studied the broken hulk of him, shoulders slumped, hands slack in his lap. For a flicker of a second, guilt pricked her. Did I push him too far? She splashed at the cold water, sending it rippling across the tin. The sound was the only answer.
Martha stood on the corner of Whitechapel Road, outside the White Swan. She was cold, shifting her weight from foot to foot, eyes scanning the street as if searching for someone. Her shawl was thin, her patience thinner. After a few moments, she ducked inside the pub. The warmth hit her first, then the noise. She made her way to the bar.
A beer,
she said, voice low. The barmaid nodded. Martha drank it in one go, slammed the empty glass down, and stepped back into the night. Further off, tucked away in one of the many secluded courts behind George Yard, a bare-knuckle bout was in full swing. The crowd roared, a ring of excited punters jostling around the fighters. Local favorite Henry was trading brutal punches with an outsider. Among the crowd stood familiar faces. Macca, Henry's trainer John, and Macca's usual crew, Dick and Jimmy, Harry and Louie. These events always brought them out. Toby, Paddy and little Alfie were there too. So were two dubious thugs, Murph and Moorish. And from the shadows, always watching, stood Ivan, unmoving, unreadable. The fight roared on. Fists cracked against flesh. Bets changed hands. The local shunters, those who walked the beat nearby, had already been paid off. Macca had learned, especially after '82, that a quiet copper was a cheap investment. The noise of the crowd was loud enough to drown out the screams. From one of the nearby slum hovels tucked just behind the court came the ragged cries of a young girl, no more than 18, screaming in pain. Her voice tore through the night, but no one heard. Or rather, no one chose to hear. The midwife, though some called her an abortionist and most simply knew her as Mrs. Flowers on the frock, went about her work with a sickly sort of resolve. There was no laudanum for the young girl tonight, not a drop. She didn't deserve it, so the midwife had decided. In her eyes, she was judge, jury, and executioner. When the limp, stillborn body finally emerged, it was tossed without a thought onto the blazing fire, the room filled with the acrid stench of burning flesh. The girl sobbed, writhing in agony, physical and otherwise. Mrs. Flowers was unmoved. No empathy, no sympathy, no compassion, just coin in hand and a belief she'd done a decent night's work. As she stepped back out into the night, the sound of cheering echoed from the nearby court. The boxing match had ended. Henry had battered his opponent to the delight of the winners. The betting crowd roared their approval. Mrs. Flowers turned the corner, only to find Martha Turner standing in her path.
"Where's Rosie?"
Martha asked. The question came firm, but there was a tremble beneath it. Flowers on the frock didn't answer. She simply drew a knife from her corset, long, narrow, and worn from use.
"Get out of my fucking way, Turner."
Martha didn't move.
"I want money."
The midwife laughed, a dry, hateful sound.
"Do what you always do, then fuck for it."
Martha stood her ground.
"I'll go to the shunters."
In a flash, the knife was at her throat. Mrs. Flowers leaned in close, her breath sour.
"Like they fucking care,"
she hissed.
"Get out of my fucking way or I'll slit you here and leave you for the rats."
Martha froze. She said nothing. The midwife stepped around her, boots cottering quickly over the cobbles, her hollow laugh echoing into the dark crevices of the rookeries. The boxing bout was nearing its conclusion in a court in George Yard. Coase stood at the edge of the crowd, eyes wild, goading the pressman beside him.
"See this? See the degradation? This is what Piotr is talking about. Surely you can see it. The depths of this barbarism, the joyless hell created by capitalist forces sucking the life out of these people."
The pressman let out a laugh. "You're demented, pal. This lot look like they're having the time of their lives."
"Can't you see it?"
Coase pleaded, gesturing desperately toward the crowd. The pressman shook his head, calm as you like. "This ain't worth reporting on, mate. Sorry." As the bout ended, the crowd began to disperse, some arguing, others trading loud banter or drunken shoves. Soldiers, sailors, and feral miscreants of every kind peeled away in groups, heading for the pubs still open, the illicit drinking dens, or driven by the blood rush of adrenaline and violence in search of female company. That might be down some shadowy alley, a secluded court, or even a supposedly double-married lodging room let by a none-too-particular superintendent more interested in coin than decorum. Nearby, Toby, Paddy, and little Alfie gathered to count their winnings, not from bets but from the scores they'd dipped. Bare-knuckle bouts were perfect for pickpockets. The crowd got so engrossed they rarely noticed the lightening of their pockets. Watching them from a distance, Ivan didn't miss a thing. He rarely did. His mind was elsewhere, on opportunity. His benefactors from the Crown had made themselves clear. They'd reward him handsomely for disrupting rival operations. And to do that, he'd need a crew, a gullible one. He watched the three lads, young, wiry, hungry, opportunists. Perfect. And if they didn't want to play, a little persuasion could go a long way. Ivan smiled to himself. He expected they'd come around.
George Yard Buildings, early morning. Johnny Reeves slipped out of his cramped room as dawn struggled to break through the choking smog. He shut the door softly, careful not to wake the others, and felt his way down the narrow staircase. The building always smelled damp, a mix of sweat, cheap gin, and decay. As he reached the first-floor landing, his foot caught on something. He pitched forward, barely catching himself against the wall.
"What the—"
Heart-pounding, he turned, squinting in the dim light. A heap of rags. No, something else. He knelt down, his hands brushing against silk stockings. Then something wet, sticky. A sharp metallic scent filled his nostrils. Blood. His breath caught in his throat. His hands trembled as he realized what he was touching.
"Oh my God!"
Stumbling backward, he bolted down the stairs and into the street.
Lucy lay stiff as a board, her heart pounding against her ribs. The morning glow barely pushed through the grime on the window, casting the room in a murky half-light. She listened. Heavy, deliberate breathing. Tommy. He was just standing there. She didn't need to look to know. She could feel it. A deep, unspoken instinct warned her. Something in the air, in the weight of his presence, told her he wasn't just waking up for the day. He was wound tight, blood up. And when Tommy's blood was up, there was no reasoning with him. She forced herself to stay still, keeping her breathing steady, feigning sleep. Then, drip. Not a steady drip, but an irregular one. A soft pattering onto the floorboards. Drip, drip. Lucy's brow furrowed ever so slightly. Something was dripping, but what? Before she could dwell on it, Tommy moved. The bed creaked slightly as he shifted his weight. Then the door creaked open, and he was gone. Lucy lifted her head cautiously, her eyes landing on the spot where he had been standing. The dim light barely revealed a dark, wet patch on the floor. She squinted. Was that blood? Her stomach turned. Footsteps. She barely had time to drop her head back down and squeeze her eyes shut before Tommy returned. A slosh of water, the scrape of a brush. He was cleaning the floor, scrubbing. Lucy swallowed, her throat dry. He knew this would wake her. He wasn't even trying to be quiet. That meant he didn't care if she knew. Maybe he wanted her to know, just not to ask. She propped herself up on her elbows, her voice barely above a whisper.
What are you doing, Tommy?
His response was instant.
Go back to fucking sleep.
Cold, sharp, full of warning. Lucy froze, then slowly eased herself back down, heart hammering in her chest. She shut her eyes tight, willing herself into darkness, praying for sleep, praying for morning. Later that morning, George Yard Landing. P.C. Barrett stood over the crumpled form, his face tight with unease. The dim light did little to soften the horror sprawled before him. Beside him, Dr. Killeen examined the scene with professional detachment.
What do you think?
Barrett asked. Dr. Killeen straightened, his expression unreadable.
She was likely killed here. There's no blood on the steps, no sign of her being moved.
Time of death?
The doctor considered for a moment, glancing at the stiffening body.
I'd estimate around 2, maybe half past.
Barrett exhaled through his nose, glancing at the growing crowd of onlookers being held back by constables. The city was waking up to another bloody morning.
I'd better get the boys to bring the ambi cart, get her down to the mortuary.
Dr. Killeen nodded, looking out at the restless, murmuring crowd.
Yes, that's best. We'll do a full post-mortem there. See if we can make sense of this.
But they both knew there was little sense to be made of murder in Whitechapel.